back again with another Honor Review, and today we're going to talk about and review, to me, one of the greatest action movies of the 80s, and that is Commando. And what more can you say about this film? It's an action classic, it's an Arnold classic. To me, whenever I think about this film, it's the perfect template for what an action movie should be. You have a great hero, a plot that is straightforward, it's not overcomplicated. You have great action from start to finish, uh, fun score and so forth. But, to me, this is the quintessential action movie, especially at this time. And I know the same year you also had First Blood Part 2, and that really ignited the competition, between Arnold and Sly. And also that year that I don't see a whole lot of people mention, a lot of people will talk about, and understandably, Commando First Blood Part 2, which is the best, which is better. But a lot of people don't really talk about Chuck Norris because Chuck Norris had three movies that year. He had Invasion USA, Missing in Action 2, and Code of Silence. Three great movies from Chuck, which I, love. I don't know. I just wanted to mention that because I don't see a lot of people, mention that. But, going back to Commando here, it's one of my favorite action movies. Definitely one of my favorite Arnold films. I mean, the character of John Matrix. I mean, if I had a Mount Rushmore of, like if I could picture a Mount Rushmore of Arnold characters, John Matrix, that character would definitely be in the front, with Dutch from Predator, and I don't know who the other two would be. I mean, the Terminator's a given, but I don't know who would be the fourth. I had to think about that. But, it's one of my favorite Arnold characters, of course, and, but, yeah, so, yeah, Commando is, again, a classic. It's an action classic, and so let's talk about this movie. Now, the plot is straightforward. I mean, you have the main character, John Matrix. He lives secluded in the mountains with his daughter, Jenny. He's retired special forces, and one day, his former commander drops in, gives him a warning that, hey, his team, his unit they're being picked off one by one. So he gives John Matrix a warning, and then soon after, John Matrix, his home is attacked, his daughter is kidnapped. So John Matrix is set on getting his daughter back and, bent on revenge against our villains here. And that's kind of the plot, really. I mean, that's the, plot in a nutshell. And I was directed by Mark L. Lester. Now, Mark L. Lester, before this, he had directed Class of 1984, Firestarter, and then later on, Showdown Little Tokyo, Extreme Justice. Now, out of those movies, Class of 1984, I haven't seen, but I've heard about the film. Firestarter, I've seen a little bit of, but not all the way through. I do have the Blu-ray, so anytime I can watch it. Showdown Little Tokyo is a great action movie. I've heard of Extreme Justice, but haven't seen it. And I know he's directed other stuff. I think more nowadays he's doing a lot of producing. Maybe he'll direct, once in a while, but I think he's doing more producing now. But Mark L. Lester, I felt, did a really good job directing here. I mean, whether that be, with the way they debut, like they introduce John Matrix, you have that iconic shot of Arnold coming in, carrying that big log. And, so right off the bat, you get the impression that, this character is a badass. I mean, it's a classic shot of our main character carrying this big log on his shoulder. And, the pacing to me, I mean, it's a 90-minute film. Again, from the moment that his daughter gets kidnapped, I mean, that's where the film really kicks into high gear. But, so The pacing I thought was really good. It's a fast-paced movie. And, I thought, again, Mark Lester did a really good job directing here. And the cast here is great. I mean, Arnold as John Matrix, he's a badass character. And even, I mean, with the quotes, I mean, anyone who's seen this film can quote the movie. I mean, he got a lot of memorable lines, and only Arnold can make that work. Only Arnold can pull off this, scenes like with him, the first shot of John Matrix, carrying this big trunk. Only Arnold could do that. I mean, and whether it be, again, talking about the quotes, and I'm not going to quote the entire film, but, the stuff where, he's talking to Sully, played by David Patrick Kelly. You're a funny guy, Sully. I like you. That's why I'm going to kill you last. And then you got the scene where he's being escorted on the plane, and the flight attendant's like, "You have any carry-on luggage?" "Yeah, just him." The guy that he's with, and then he kills him, and then the flight attendant comes back, and he's like, "Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired." And again, only Arnold could pull that off. Arnold's great at, delivering the quotes and the fun one-liners, and then, later on in the finale where you get the fight between him and Bennett, played by Vernon Wells, you got the one moment where Bennett's like, "I'm not going to shoot you between the eyes. I'm going to shoot you between the balls." And then his comeuppance, where John Matrix throws the pipe and then impales Bennett, let off some steam, Bennett. And, Arnold's great here. I mean, again, whether it be in the action, delivering the one-liners and quotes, which there's many more which I didn't even touch on. And again, I'm not going to quote the whole movie, but it's a very quotable action movie. I mean, Predator is definitely quotable, and I would have to say that, this could be Arnold's second most quotable film. I mean, a lot of people can quote Predator, and I would think behind that is Commando, because that's how much, impact the quotes have, and just how much, entertaining, it's entertaining, to see Arnold, deliver these lines. Only Arnold can do that. But Arnold's great. I mean, as far as the rest of the cast, going over the cast here, Ray Day Chong as Cindy, I thought she was good support in the film. She wasn't annoying or anything. I felt that her and, John Matrix had a decent chemistry there. And I liked, her in the film. Alyssa Milano as Jenny. She was a teenager here. Now, I'm not sure how old she was here exactly. But of course, later on, being in shows like Charmed and other stuff. But, Alyssa Milano, for what she was able to do here, I thought she was fine. Vernon Wells as Bennett. And I thought I read somewhere. Now, who was it that was in talks to play that character? Maybe I saw it in the trivia somewhere that they had someone else to play Bennett. Now, I did copy down some trivia, but I also saw somewhere that they were looking at somebody to play the character of Bennett. And I'm just sort of going through the trivia here real quick. Okay, it says right here, Vernon Wells was, little trivia here. Vernon Wells wasn't the original actor to play Bennett. He did audition for the role and lost to Wings Hauser. And on the first day of filming, however, director Mark Lester fired Hauser and hired Wells. This is the reason that Bennett's clothes seem so tight, because Wells was bigger than Hauser, and the production didn't have time to make a new costume. Over the years, a rumor has developed that Wells originally auditioned for the part of Matrix, but this is false. Um, I wonder what Wings Hauser would have done, but it's perfectly casted. I mean, Vernon Wells around this time, from Mad Max 2, after this, doing Inner Space, and, very nice guy. Met him back in May. Really cool guy. I got to ask him about Inner Space, and, I think my Commando autograph is somewhere up there. You can't see it, but it's up there on the shelf. But really cool guy. But Vernon Wells, again, around this time, playing villain types, and he did a great job. You also have Bill Duke. Yeah, he would go on to play Mac in Predator. He's in the film here as Cook. The Green Beret, where Arnold gets into a fight with in a hotel room, and that's a great scene. So it's cool to see him in there. Dan Hedaya as the dictator character, Arius, great actor, does a great job. And of course, you also have David Patrick Kelly, who would later be on in The Crow. Very good job here as the character of Sully. Sort of a weasel type of villain, and the way he gets it is a lot of fun. Remember Sully, I told you I would kill you last? I lied. And it's another great moment. But the cast, is great here. I mean, even Bill Paxton has a very small cameo in the film, which I forgot about. But, the cast is great. The score for the film, I felt was good here. I do like James Horner as a composer, and I felt he did a good job with the score. The action is entertaining, plentiful, and practical. Even before that great third act, you had some great scenes before that. Everybody remembers the stuff at the mall, where Matrix is confronted by the security guards and he beats up the guards. And, Sully's in the phone booth and he picks up the phone booth. And then a little bit after that, you get the fight between Arnold's character and Bill Duke's character at the hotel. Just great stuff. And then you fast forward to, the third act, which I, keep thinking about, where he's on the island, and a lot of great shots of, John Matrix gearing up, putting on the paint, getting his weapons ready, his guns, grenades, and he's getting ready to get his daughter back. And the whole third act, it's just action-packed, great body count. And the trivia says the body count was 109, but 102 were killed by Arnold. So the whole third act, I mean, for people who have seen the film, you know how great it is. I mean, a lot of great gunplay, great explosions, and it's all practical. And it's just unfortunate that now, like nowadays, you just don't see that anymore. When you look at the action genre, I mean, people might say, well, what about the John Wick movies? I love the John Wick movies. But, my question is, why can't more films, action movies, be like this? Why can't they take, a page from Commando, or really a whole book from Commando, on how to make an action film? And I know people might say, well, the action genre has changed, or it has evolved. But has it changed for the better? Has it evolved for the better? Because what people consider action now is a lot of comic book movies. The human factor has been taken out. And I think that, to me, is a big component as to why the action genre is really at a stagnant, place, or, has gone downhill. I mean, the John Wick films, yes, they're great movies, but we just don't get enough of that, for me, really say, oh, the action genre is great. Because as much as I love the John Wick movies, I just know that, unfortunately, the action genre is not going to go back to this. I mean, as much as I sit here and I wish that, but, let's face it, the general public, they look at this films like this, films of this era, and they say it's cheesy, or it's corny, or it's dated, because they saw that one YouTube video, and, now it's the assumption, because they see, certain scenes, and they, call it cheesy, they call it corny, they call it dated. But to me, I enjoy films like this, action movies like this, because you have a great hero, that doesn't have superpowers, that doesn't carry a shield, that doesn't carry a great hammer. It's the human factor. A guy that will do anything to get his daughter back. And yes, you can say, well, also that plot has been done many times afterwards, but I love this movie, and again, I wish that the action genre, would do more movies like this. That type of movie, and this is, like I said in the beginning of this review, this film here serves as a great template for what an action movie should be. But again, the third act of the film is entertaining. It's action packed, great body count. The final fight between him and Bennett, Vernon Wells, was great stuff. Bennett gets a great comeuppance with the pipe, being impaled by the pipe. Let off some steam, Bennett. Everybody remembers that, line. But yeah, so I really love the third act of the film. It really gets you pumped up, and it's entertaining. And, to mention a couple of notes of trivia here, I didn't write down or copy down a bunch of stuff, but Nick Nolte was the original choice for John Matrix. But of course, they casted Arnold. I don't think Nick Nolte, as great as Nick Nolte is, I don't think he would have worked. And I know also too, which I saw in the trivia, I didn't copy this down, but John McTiernan was approached to direct this movie, and I wonder what John McTiernan would have done, pre-Predator, before Predator, how he would have worked with Arnold, doing Commando. But, Marco Lester, I don't take anything away from him. Again, he still did a great job here. Of course, like I said, this is the same year that you also had Rambo First Blood Part 2. Both films performed well, but Stallone's film was a much bigger hit and more of a cultural, global phenomenon. The fact that Stallone and Schwarzenegger had competing films out in the same year and only fueled the competition that, of course, went on for years. On the film Commando, Arnold was very protective of Alyssa Milano, and would even help her with her homework. So, again, a couple of interesting notes there of trivia, and there's quite a bunch more that you can find on IMDb and I'm sure other places. But overall, Commando. What more can you say about this film? To me, it's an action classic. It's an Arnold classic. Definitely in my top 3 Arnold films. And it's what an action film should be. You have a great hero, a lot of great action that's plentiful, entertaining, practical, lots of great gunplay and explosions, great villain and Bennett, played by Vernon Wells, and if you throw in Dan Hedaya in there, the film is 90 minutes. It just goes at a fast pace, and exciting third act, fun score by James Horner, and I like the song at the end. So yeah, Commando, what more can you say about the film? So yeah, that's my review of Commando. I hope you enjoyed this review. And yeah, definitely a favorite of mine. Definitely an Arnold favorite. But thank you once again. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.